In today's video, I made 3 custom LEGO sets based off of the most iconic scenes from Breaking Bad Season 4. Because, let's be honest, LEGO is never gonna make sets based off of this show. So to start off, the first set that I'm gonna be building is the Super Lab where Walt and Jesse cook for Gus. I decided to make this a diorama set, in the same style as sets such as the T-Rex Breakout and the Trash Compactor Escape. The reason for this is that I need the set to be slightly elevated so that I can include a really dark Better Call Saul Easter egg, which we'll get to in a bit. Anyway, before we get building, I think we should go ahead and take a look at both of the minifigures that I included in the set. The first figure is Walt, and he is of course wearing the iconic yellow hazmat suit, the design for which I based off of the Beekeeper minifigure, but in yellow, and I added some brown shoes as well as blue gloves. This figure also comes with a yellow hood piece, he's wearing glasses, and he has a serious facial expression. The other figure is Jesse Pinkman, and he's wearing a similar outfit to Walt, except he has different shoes, and he's wearing a mask and a hood, which is actually a new mask-hood combo piece. And if you remove it, you'll see a new face print, which I've designed for Jesse, which has some brown stubble and looks somewhat irritated. Now, back to the build. I started by making a base, which is 28 studs long and 20 studs wide. I made sure to include support for the build and a few open areas to add some play features that I have in mind. The first one will be to remove the lab in order to better access parts of the build, and as you can see, the pieces will allow you to slide it out quite easily. To build the actual lab area, I used a bunch of slopes and circular pieces to make the large tanks where Walt and Jesse make the product, and I also used some cylinder pieces to make canisters, and I even added some gauges and controls in several spots. After making the lab, I began building up the wall. I started off with a tan section on the right, then began building up an L-shaped gray wall, and the reason for building this wall is that I want to make the elevated steel graded floor and the entrance, so I'll need some extra wall in order to add these details. Unfortunately, when I was trying to make said elevated steel floor, I ran into some issues. I tried a few different techniques to really get the look right, but none of them seemed to be working. They were either too big, too small, or just straight up ugly in some cases. So while I try to figure out how to build this area, let's go ahead and start looking at my plans for set number 2. The next and biggest set in this video will be 308 Negra Arroyo Lane, aka Walt's house. So once again, starting off with the figures, let's first take a look at Walt. I had a really difficult time deciding on just one single outfit for Walt, since so many of his most iconic scenes happen in this location. So I just decided not to choose, and instead of just settling for one, I included 3 torsos, 2 leg pieces, and 2 heads, and that way you can mix and match to create whatever scene you want. The first design is based off of the iconic "I'm the one who knocks" speech. He isn't wearing glasses, but he does look quite angry, and he's wearing a dark red t-shirt and has dual molded arms. The second design is based off of his outfit when he witnesses the plane explosion in Season 2. He is of course wearing a pink sweater with a collared shirt underneath, and he's wearing dark tan pants as well as glasses. Then the last design that I made is based off of the outfit that he wore when he threw the pizza on the roof in Season 2, which is just a simple blue button-up shirt. I also gave him the pizza box as his accessory, which has a custom printed 2x2 tile. The next figure is Walter Jr. He uses the Emmett hairpiece in dark brown and has a slightly grinning expression. He's wearing a gray striped collared shirt with a black undershirt as well as a belt and some black shoes, and of course his accessories are his crutches. After that, I made Marie Schrader, and she uses the Black Widow hairpiece in brown and has a serious facial expression. She's wearing a purple bead necklace and a purple dress as well as high heels. Well, those are all the figures for now, so let's go ahead and move on to the build. I began by plotting out the floor plan and deciding where all the rooms and the doors were going to be. I also decided that I wanted this house to be dollhouse style and able to hinge open so that the interior could be easily accessible. So after making a basic plan, I began making the front half of the house. The first room is the living room, which includes a small couch, a table, and a fireplace. Then in the hallway, you can see portraits of Walt, Skylar, and Walt Jr., and further down are 2 doors. Through the first door is Holly's room, which has a crib and a family portrait, as well as a vent. The vent is actually part of a really fun play feature. It can pop off to reveal the spot where Walt hid his cash, and the cash fits inside of a hollow bush near the entrance to the house. The other door leads to an area that looks like the garage from the outside, but in order to save space, I put Walt Jr.'s room here instead. Inside of his room are some posters on the walls, a bed, a lamp, a desk, and some model planes, one of which is a reference to the Amelia Earhart Lego set. I also added a really fun little detail, which is the computer where Walt Jr. makes the Save Walter White website. The last part of this half of the house is Walt's closet, which will eventually connect to his bedroom on the second half. This closet has a sliding door and will allow you to store the extra headpiece, torsos, and pair of pants that Walt has. So like I said, this will eventually connect to the rest of Walt's bedroom, but I still have yet to build it. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at set number 3, based off of the season 4 finale, Face Off. The first figure in the set is Hector Salamanca, who is quite similar to the previous figure that I made of him, but this time his face is clean shaven, he's wearing a green striped shirt, and he's wearing white pants. The other figure in this set is Gus Fring. Fring uses the fin hairpiece and is wearing a dark blue suit with a long striped tie. He has a similar face print to the one in my Pollos Hermanos set, except for the alternate facial expression, which depicts his blank stare after half of his face was blown off. Speaking of, the explosion is going to be this set's main feature. The design for this set is going to be loosely based off of the Bro Thor set from a while back. So I started off by making a base and building up a couple of walls. After that, I made spots for a door and some Technic bricks that will allow me to create the explosion play features. Then I began furnishing the room, adding things such as drawers, cabinets, and the chair that Gus sits in when talking to Hector. After that, all that was left to do was to add a few more finishing details, like a painting, a bag of Pollos Hermanos chicken, and some pills on the drawer. And with that, the set was complete. So to recreate the explosion, all you have to do is push down on any given lever, and you'll be able to blow up the drawer, the cabinet, and even launch the door. So here's a comparison of what the set would look like normally versus how it would look like when it's being blown up. And finally, here's a look at the box art that I designed, modeled after the 18+ box art style that LEGO would almost certainly use with this theme. Now let's go back to the White's house, because I've made quite a bit of progress since we last saw it. First off, let's add a couple more figures, starting off with Hank Schrader. I decided to reuse this torso from a set in one of my previous Breaking Bad videos, but I designed a brand new face print to give him a grinning expression. The other figure that I added is Skylar White, who has the Hermione hairpiece in nougat and has a smiling expression. She's wearing a white sweater with a blue blouse underneath and a bead necklace. Then for her accessory, I gave her a Holly baby figure. Well, that's all the figures, so now let's take a look at the rest of the build. Starting on the left, you'll see a small dining area, and since Walt Jr. is in this set, I obviously had to include some breakfast. More specifically, it's Walt's 50th birthday breakfast from the first episode. Directly behind the eating area is a sliding door which leads to the backyard, and directly next to the eating area is the kitchen, which has a bunch of details, including but not limited to a fridge with a bunch of magnets on it, a box of Raisin Bran, and the knife that Skylar uses in Ozymandias. Down the hall from that is the rest of Walt and Skylar's room, which has a large bed, some lamps, some pictures, and a door to the restroom. Inside of the bathroom is a shower and a sink. There's also the book that Gail gave to Walt on the counter, and of course the toilet where Hank takes what was quite possibly the most significant crap in TV history. Now that the house is almost finished, all that's left to build is the roof. Getting the roof to look good was somewhat difficult because I had to get all the angles just right. But in the end, I think it turned out great, and it's perfect for throwing pizzas on. For the box art, I used the same design as the previous set, and the box ended up being pretty wide, which I think looks kinda cool. But now, I think it's finally time to go back to set number 1, that of course being the Super Lab. I did eventually manage to figure out a solution to my issue, and it required using a variety of snot pieces and some dark red fence pieces. After finishing the elevated area, I made a spiral staircase down to the bottom, and started working on the area underneath. In the first section is a chair and a table with a bunch of the product on it. Behind that, there's also a shelf with cartons of chemicals. Then in the back left corner is a bulletin board and a bag of cash. All the way in the back right, I added a bunch of the barrels with the B on them, which I think is easily one of the most recognizable parts of this set. In front of that is a little area which just looks like an extension of the lab. However, it's only attached to the base by a few studs, so when you take it off, you'll see a couple of Jimmy McGill's old acquaintances. The last thing that I added was a quote, which is a defining detail in every single LEGO diorama set. The quote that I decided to go with was simply,
"I'm the cook."
Of course, the box art was in the exact same style as the previous 2 sets, with a black background and green bricks on the bottom. Well, that's about all I have for you guys today. If you have any suggestions for future videos, then make sure to leave them in the comments below, like and subscribe if you haven't already, but yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Have a great day, and go build something awesome.